And if y'all not keeping up, and if y'all don't know what just happened, let me help y'all understand. Hey y'all, welcome and/or welcome back to my channel. My name is Janae, if you didn't know, and today's video is another true crime episode. So if you're ready, let's go. Alright y'all, so as y'all can see, I did my nails last night, I think it was. I don't know when I did them, but here they are though. Jason said he don't like them though. He said they look like an old lady, but I like them though. But anyways, y'all, now that I'm all hopped up on my coffee, I'm gonna go ahead and get right into today's case. And today's case pissed me off yet again. I think all of the cases piss me off, but it'd be like levels of festivity because like certain stuff, it piss you off, but then other stuff, it'll be like piss you off, right? And today is one of those cases where the level of festivity, it's high. It's up there. But yeah, let's just go ahead and get into the case. So at around 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning on April 9th, 2018 in Laredo, Texas, Border Patrol agent Lara is sitting in his truck with his trainee agent Smith at Father McNabb Park. And I've heard that being said in a couple of different ways. I've heard Father McNabb, Magnabu. I don't really know the correct pronunciation of it. So from now on, I'm probably just gonna refer to this as the park because yeah, I don't know how to say it for real. And this park borders the Rio Grande River, which separates Mexico from the United States. So on this side, you have Father McNabb Park that is in Laredo, Texas, USA. And then on the other side of the river, you have Sabinas Hidalgo, Nuevo León, Mexico, and so USA. Mexico. But before they get into the nitty-gritty of the job, Agent Lara wants them to laminate some maps because obviously they're Border Patrol agents, and so they have certain areas in which they patrol. And Agent Lara has some maps that he wanted to show Agent Smith, but he also wanted them to be laminated so that if they got any dirt, mud, if they got wet, they wouldn't deteriorate. But they didn't have no laminating machine inside of this truck, so they're doing it the bootleg way, and they got some packaging tape, and they are pretty much laminating these maps with packaging tape. And as they're doing this, Agent Lara notices another Border Patrol vehicle approaching them from the opposite direction. And once that vehicle gets close enough, Agent Lara realizes that this is Border Patrol Supervisor Agent Ronald Aviles. And Supervisor Aviles, he obviously sees that Lara and Smith are inside of this truck, and so he stops and makes brief conversation with them before heading on about his way. But less than 2 minutes after Supervisor Aviles pulls away, Agent Lara hears himself being called over the radio, and it is Supervisor Aviles saying that he needs assistance. He has just found an unresponsive woman near the ATV trail and he needs assistance. So Agent Lara rushes to where Supervisor Aviles is at, and once he makes it to where Supervisor Aviles is at, he sees a woman lying face down, covered in blood, and he immediately takes action. He calls out to her multiple times, and when she doesn't respond, he takes the next step and he goes over to check her pulse. And unfortunately, he does not find one. And he calls for law enforcement and paramedics immediately. And once paramedics arrive, they realize that unfortunately, this woman is deceased and there is nothing that they can do to help her. And then law enforcement and detectives arrive shortly after this, and they start to process the scene. But at this point, they have an unidentified person, and one of their first orders of business is to identify her because, like I said, they are in an area where people cross the border all the time and they don't know which side of the border she's from. And so at this point, they don't know if they need to be trying to find family from Mexico or Texas. But luckily, in a parking lot not too far away from the ATV trail, there was an apparent abandoned car. And so they decided to run the plates on this car, and it came back registered to a woman named Angelica Hernandez, and she's a resident of Laredo. And so they ended up contacting her and asked her, did she know that her car had been abandoned at the park? And Angelica informed them that no, the car wasn't abandoned, that she had actually let her younger sister Griselda Hernandez borrow the car. And upon hearing this, the detectives asked Angelica to describe her sister, to give a general description of her sister. And she did. And the whole time, obviously, Angelica is wondering like what's going on, but they're not telling her too much. They just want to know. They're just trying to identify this young lady. But with the description that Angelica gave, they were able to identify this young lady as Griselda Hernandez. And if I'm not mistaken, in combination with that description, they were able to identify her with fingerprints as well. And so while detectives are talking to Angelica, they are also processing this crime scene, and they realize that a little bit further down this ATV trail, they have a second victim. And the second victim is identified as Griselda's 18-month-old son, Dominic Hernandez. And at this point, like I said, detectives don't want to notify Angelica of her sister and her nephew's death over the phone. And so they're making their way over to Angelica's house. And once they get there and start to talk to Angelica, they ask her, does she know what her sister was doing at the park? And y'all, what she tells them is about to shock their draws. Okay? But before I tell you what she told them, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Griselda and Dominic. So Griselda Hernandez was born on April 16th, 1990 to her parents Mary and Ramiro Hernandez, and she was one of 4 children. And there's not very much out there about her childhood, about her growing up, but what I do know is that at around the age of 20 or 21, she would have her first child, a little boy named Jaden. And then in 2015, she would meet a man online named Anthony Burgos, and they started like it wasn't like a real relationship type of thing. It was more of a when we together, friends with benefits type of thing. And as far as Griselda knew, Anthony was married but separated. Him and his wife no longer lived together, and they were in the process of getting a divorce. And there was absolutely no chance of them ever rekindling their relationship. And so Griselda was okay with the relationship that the two of them had. And so Griselda and Anthony seen each other when they seen each other, and everything was all good until Griselda became pregnant. Because when she told Anthony about it, he wanted her to terminate the pregnancy right away. He didn't want to have no kids. But Griselda didn't feel the same way. She decided that she was going to keep her baby. And in making this decision, Griselda had come to terms with the fact that Anthony probably wasn't going to be a part of this baby's life. And she wasn't super okay with it. She knew that he didn't want the baby and that there was a big possibility that he just wouldn't be around. But she also knew that she would have the support of her friends and family. And with that, on July 26, 2016, baby Dominic Alexander Hernandez was born. And just as expected, Anthony was nowhere in the picture. But like I said, Griselda had a very strong support system, and her family helped her out whenever and however they could. But Griselda knew that if she was going to be a single mom to not 1 but to 2 children, she wanted a career. She didn't want to be moving job to job. She wanted something that was stable and paid a good amount. And so she decided to follow in her big sister Angelica's footsteps and become a nurse. And with that, she started classes at TAMU, which is Texas A&M International University, as she set out for a career in nursing. And obviously her family was super proud of her. She was doing what she needed to do. She wasn't letting the fact that she was now the single mother to 2 young boys hinder her in any way, shape, or form. She knew exactly what she wanted, and she was gonna go get it. But it definitely was not easy for her at all. And by the end of 2017, Griselda decided that she needed help because childcare was expensive and student loans and family help was only gonna go so far. And so what she ended up doing was reaching out to Anthony and pretty much asked him like, hey, I'm kind of struggling here. Can you at least help me pay for childcare? That's all I'm asking for. I'm not asking you for like your life savings or nothing like that. I just would like a little bit of help here. And Anthony completely ignored her. Like, didn't even respond to the messages. And so Griselda decided that she was going to apply for help through the state. But once she submitted her application to the Texas Child Care Assistance Program, they contacted her back and let her know that if she wanted to get assistance through the state for child care, that she would have to open a child support case on the child's father. And so she was a little bit hesitant about this, but in the end, she decided that she really did need this help. And so she didn't have another choice but to open this child support case. And in January of 2018, she would reach out to Anthony again and let him know that this is something that she would be doing. So she was really she didn't want him to be caught off guard, which I think is very generous because a lot of people just apply for child support and the next thing you know, you're getting served. So she was kind of trying to give him the heads up. She was just letting him know like, hey, get ready, be prepared, because it's coming. But before she filed the child support paperwork, her and her friend had to do a little bit of detective work because on the application for child support, they asked for the father's address. And Griselda didn't have that. And so she had to figure it out. And so like I said, her and her friend did a little bit of detective work and they were able to find Anthony's address. But to be sure that that was his address and that he actually lived there or still lived there, Griselda and her friend decided to do a little drive-by, and they rode by his house, and they learned that yes, that was his address, but they also learned that that was his wife's address as well, and that they also had 2 kids. So he had a whole little family out here in these streets that Griselda knew nothing about. Well, actually, I'm not really 100% sure if Griselda knew that he had kids or not, but she was most certainly unaware that him and his wife were still together. And so after finding out that Anthony was very much still married and not separated, the next logical thing for Griselda and her friend to do was to find the wife on Facebook or on social media. I don't know if they found her on Facebook, but they went and found the wife. Don't act like y'all ain't never did it. Don't act like y'all are above this, because So anyways, they find her page and confirm that she and Anthony are very much still an item. And they also found a picture of the wife and Anthony's child, one of their children. And they were baffled by the resemblance of this baby and baby Dominic. Like, the two of them looked like they was damn near the same baby. And I saw the picture of these 2 kids, and I really couldn't tell which one was which until it was pointed out which one was Dominic. These babies look damn near identical. But anyways, now that Griselda had Anthony's address, she was able to fill out the papers for the child support. And on February 9th, 2018, the application was submitted. And things started moving pretty quickly after that, because by March 21st, Anthony had already been served with his child support paperwork. But the paperwork that he received wasn't telling him how much he was going to pay in child support or nothing like that, because there still had to be a formal meeting to discuss percentages, how much was going to be taken out and when. This paperwork was just letting him know that the process had been started, right? And while they were waiting for this meeting to take place, Anthony obviously had a very sudden change of heart, because he ended up getting in contact with Griselda, and he told her that he wanted to meet baby Dominic. And being the type of person that Griselda was, she agreed. And I know y'all probably wondering, like, well, why the hell would she agree to this man meeting this baby a year after he was born? But she never not wanted Anthony to be a part of baby Dominic's life in the first place. And so she felt like, well, what harm could this do, right? And then plus, just me thinking, Griselda probably was feeling like, well, hell, Anthony probably feels like if he got to pay for Dominic or be there for him financially, he might as well be a part of his life, right? And Griselda was going to allow that. But once Griselda told her sister Angelica about it, Angelica was very much so apprehensive. She wanted to know why now. Why, after almost 2 years, does Anthony want to meet this baby now? But she respected her sister's wishes, and she just told her to make sure that she meets him in a public place where there's a lot of people around, just in case some shit go down. And so the meeting was set up for March 25th, 2018 at Winfield Park. So the day arrives, and Griselda pulls up, and she sees Anthony, and she introduces him to his son, and then she realizes that she left a couple of things in the car. So she gives Dominic to his father, and she lets him hold him while she runs to the car right quick. And she's initially taking her time with getting back to the two of them, because she feel like this could be a good start to a father-son relationship. And she wants them to have that little piece of bonding time, just the two of them, so that they can get used to one another, more specifically so that Dominic can get used to his dad. But as she's walking back to the two of them, she hears baby Dominic crying, and she starts to haul ass towards the two of them, because I mean, it's her baby, and she want to make sure he is as comfortable as possible. And he might be like, okay, where my mama goes? She's been gone for a little bit too long. I'm with this strange man. I do not know him. And so she hurries back to the two of them, where she grabs baby Dominic and she tries to get him to calm down, you know, just soothe him a little bit, but nothing is working. So Griselda cuts the visit short and takes baby Dominic back to her sister's house. And once they get there, Dominic is still kind of fussy. And so Angelica was like, maybe he needs a nap. Maybe he's fussy because it's nap time. And so Griselda goes and lays down with baby Dominic, but a little while later, Angelica can still hear baby Dominic like whimpering and just being uncomfortable. And so what she ended up doing was grabbing baby Dominic and giving him a once-over. She said that her mom used to do that when her or any of her siblings were feeling uncomfortable or something was wrong with them. She would just check their bodies just to make sure like nothing had bit them, or that they weren't hurt in any type of way. And so this is what Angelica did to Dominic. And as she's looking over his body, everything's looking good until she gets to one of his thighs, where she notices that there looks to be In her nursing background, it looks like he had just got a shot from the doctor or something like that. So I guess you would call it a puncture wound. She notices that. And she asks Griselda when's the last time he went to the doctor and if he had recently gotten any shots. And Griselda told her no. And as she's looking at him, she notices that there's a little bit of blood starting to form. And so she wipes it away. But this blood ain't your regular red blood. It's dark. It looked black almost. And so she squeezed it again and more of this black blood comes out of this wound. And so now she's thinking, okay, he had to have been bitten by something poisonous and this must be the poison coming out of his skin. And so they end up taking baby Dominic to the emergency room where he is diagnosed with a bug bite and he is prescribed antibiotics, Tylenol for the pain, and I think some type of steroid, which is standard protocol when someone has been bitten by a bug and is having a reaction to it. And with that, they took him home before a couple of days later returning to the doctor to have a follow-up with a pediatrician, where the pediatrician also came to the same conclusion. He was probably bitten by a spider or a bug at the park, and that Griselda should continue him on the medicine that he was previously prescribed. But Griselda was kind of hoping for something more, because by this point, by the time she had taken him to the follow-up with the pediatrician, baby Dominic had stopped walking. And prior to this incident, he was just a regular toddler. He was a full-blown running around, chasing cousins and having fun type of baby. And now he had resorted to crawling again, but he wasn't using the leg that was injured. He would crawl with one leg, just a regular crawl, but then he would drag his other leg instead of crawl with it. And so she was kind of hoping for something more, but like I said, the doctors just told her, keep giving him what you've been giving him and keep doing what you've been doing. It should get better. But as the days went on, even though baby Dominic's leg was looking a lot better outwardly, he would still complain, cry if you touched it. That particular spot was still tender to the touch. He still wasn't walking. And because of this, Griselda decided that she was going to take her baby to a specialist in San Antonio because they didn't have no specialists in Laredo where they lived. But unfortunately, that visit would never happen because on April 9th, 2018, just 2 days before Griselda was supposed to take baby Dominic to this specialist, she had planned another meeting with baby Dominic's father. So she borrows Angelica's car to try this meeting with baby Dominic's dad once again, but this time they would be meeting at Father Magnabo Park. And so when Griselda arrives, she goes towards the ATV trail where Anthony told her to meet him at. And as she's walking with baby Dominic in a stroller down this path, Anthony jumps out of the bushes and attacks Griselda. But she didn't go down easily. She fought for not only her life, but the life of her child too, because if something happened to her, baby Dominic would be here left alone with Anthony, and Griselda was not here for that. And so she fought, and she fought hard. However, unfortunately, after being stabbed 27 times, Griselda was no longer able to fight. And once Griselda was down, Anthony turned his attention towards baby Dominic. And he removed baby Dominic from the stroller, lifted up his little shirt, and stabbed him once in the chest. And, Jesus. And, now the crazy thing about this is, I did not cry when I listened to this at trial. But me saying it out of my own mouth, However, baby Dominic did not succumb to that injury, and Anthony delivered one final blow to baby Dominic's jugular vein before walking away and going on about his life like nothing had just happened. And he was probably hoping that Griselda and baby Dominic would not be found for days, weeks, months, hopefully, for him. But as we know, Border Patrol Supervisor Agent Ronald Aviles would find them just about 2 hours later. And so now we are back with Angelica telling the detectives about her sister going to the park, why she was there, who she was meeting, and all of the details. And like I said, the detectives are now with Angelica, and she tells them that Griselda went to the park to meet with her baby's father, a man named Anthony Burgos. And unfortunately, she wasn't able to give a description of Anthony because she nor any of her family members had ever seen or met him. But what she could tell them was that he was a Border Patrol agent. And so the detective who is with Angelica relays this to the detectives who are at the scene. And not only are they shocked by the fact that this man is a Border Patrol agent, but one of the detectives also is shocked because he just seen a little name badge that said Burgos on it. And so he goes and approaches Agent Burgos and he asks for his name. And this Border Patrol agent tells the detective that his name is Ronald. But the detective wants more. Like, give me your full name, sir. Stop playing with me. And so this agent gives him his full name. And his full name is Ronald Anthony Burgos Aviles. And if y'all not keeping up, and if y'all don't know what just happened, let me help y'all understand. Border Patrol Supervisor Agent Ronald Aviles, the one who discovered Griselda, yeah, that's her baby daddy, Anthony Burgos. His full name is Ronald Anthony Burgos Aviles. This man has been at the scene the whole time, from start to finish. Well, to now, not finished because it ain't done yet, but until they discovered that it was him. And so they arrested him right then and there at the crime scene. And while he's in the back of the patrol car, you can kind of see him like trying to clean himself up, if you will. He like licking his hands, rubbing his arms, trying to potentially get any evidence off of him. And also while he's in this patrol car, you can hear him say something to the effect of los teléfonos. And it will be later found out that that statement about los teléfonos was in reference to Griselda and Dominic's cell phones, because once they searched his Border Patrol vehicle, they found Dominic and Griselda's cell phones on the seat with his Border Patrol agent like jacket or something like that, his vest, something like that. They found their cell phones in his Border Patrol truck. But anyways, at the police station, Anthony is denying everything. He said he don't know what y'all talking about. Yeah, he knew her, but what that got to do with anything? But the detectives ain't really trying to hear none of that, because it's awfully suspicious that out of all people, you the one to find them. You failed to mention to anybody at the scene that you know the two victims. Their phones was found in your truck, and you tried to keep your full identity hidden. Like, sir. Anyways, after Griselda and Dominic's deaths, Angelica started to feel like whatever happened to baby Dominic at the park on March 25th has something to do with his dad. She felt like he had injected baby Dominic with something. And in an effort to figure it out and potentially help the investigation, Angelica called down to the medical examiner's office herself, and she spoke directly with the lead medical examiner, and she told her that she needs to check out baby Dominic's, I think it was his left thigh. And she pretty much explained the situation to the medical examiner. And so the medical examiner ended up opening his thigh just to see the muscle there. And once she did this, it was found that the tissue around his puncture wound was in fact necrotic, meaning it was dead. And the fact that it was discolored and the fact that it looked the way that it looked, it was evident that this particular tissue died before Dominic passed away. And so they took a sample of this tissue, but unfortunately, since they didn't know what to test for, they weren't able to test for anything because they can't test for everything. But nonetheless, the case went to trial, and with all the evidence that was stacked up against him, former Border Patrol agent Ronald Anthony Burgos Aviles was found guilty for the murders of Griselda and Dominic Hernandez. But instead of being sentenced to death, he was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. Now, a clear motive was never truly discussed, but I feel like it's pretty obvious that with the state taking money out of his account, his wife would probably notice that his money was a little funny, and then she would find out that he had a baby outside of their marriage. And Ronald just didn't want that. He didn't want those problems. He wanted to keep his marriage. He wanted to keep his family intact. And so he decided to eliminate what he felt like was threatening his home life, which I said it before, and I will say it again and again and again. If you do not want your wife to know that you out here having side babies, then do not have no side baby. At least try not to, because according to Griselda, the two of them had been having unprotected sex. Like, bro, you didn't even try to prevent this. And then for those of you who be like, oh yeah, they can use condoms and it's still not 100% effective. Well, no, it's not. But again, at least give it a try. And then if you mess around and slip up, at least be man enough to own up to your mistake and deal with the consequences that come with it. Learn how to deal with the consequences of your actions. It's very simple. Anyways, there is now a beautiful memorial at Father McNable Park that is dedicated to Griselda and Dominic. And let's not forget about the third victim, Jaden, Griselda's oldest son. Now he has to grow up without his mother, And without his younger brother, my heart goes out to little Jaden and the rest of Griselda and Dominic's family. I don't know. I mean, this one was real heartbreaking for me. But yeah, y'all, that concludes today's case. Thank you all so very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. And once that vehicle gets close enough, Agent Lotta realizes that, what he realized, girl? That this is Border Patrol Supervisor Agent Lotta. No, Lotta is not the supervisor, mother. Dude, they do this every time I'm recording a video. Y'all, how many times a week do y'all need to cut the grass? Oh wait, it's once a week. I do it when they cutting the grass. Okay, I'm about to go get something to put on me because I'm cold. It's cold down here. Hold on. I don't know why it's cold. It's fucking 90 degrees outside. But once she submitted her application to the Texas Child Care but once she submitted her application to the Texas Child Care